explore Freud's psychosocial theory of human development. This theory explains how personality forms through different stages in childhood and continues to influence us as adults. Freud believed that our personality forms through 5 stages, each linked to a part of the body that gives us pleasure. If a conflict in any stage isn't resolved, we may become fixated and carry those issues into adulthood. In the oral stage, babies explore the world through their mouths, sucking and tasting. The main conflict is weaning or moving away from the breastfeeding or the bottle. If this stage isn't resolved well, adults may show oral fixation, like nail biting, overeating, or smoking. Think of someone who always chews gums or snacks when stressed. Here, the focus is on toilet training. How parents handle this shapes a child's personality. If training is too strict, the child may grow up overly organized and controlling, what Freud called anal retentive. If training is too lenient, the child may become messy or careless. It is called anal expulsive. In this stage, children become more aware of their bodies and differences between boys and girls. Freud introduced the Oedipus and Electra complexes, where children feel attraction to the opposite sex parent and rivalry with the same sex parent. Eventually, they resolve this by identifying with the same sex parent. For instance, a boy may copy his father's behavior to gain approval. During latency, sexual feelings are quiet, and children focus on schools, friendships, and hobbies. This stage is about building social and intellectual skills. If unresolved, a person may struggle with relationships later. Imagine a child who spends all their time in clubs and friendships, avoiding romantic interest. That's typical of latency. The final stage is about mature relationships, balancing love, work, and social life. Success here depends on how earlier stages were handled. A healthy adult can form strong bonds and contribute to society. For example, a teenager who builds caring friendships and show concerns for others is moving successfully through this stage. Freud's theory is influential but also criticized. It focuses too much on male development. It's hard to test scientifically and doesn't explain female development well. It also emphasizes early childhood more than later life. Still, it laid the foundation for understanding personality.
Here are some stages of Erikson's psychosocial stages. First is the trust versus mistrust. Nag-occur siya from birth up to 18 years old ng isang bata. Key relationship is between his or her mother or ng primary caregiver. Strength developed is hope, and yung key event is about feeding. Meaning, sa unang bahagi ng buhay ng isang bata is wala pa siyang kakayahang alagaan yung sarili niya. Umiiyak siya kapag may kailangan siya, like kapag nagugutom or nilalamig, or kaya naman ay may sakit, or kaya naman ay nakakaranas yung bata ng discomfort. Dahil dito, nakabase yung emotional development ng isang bata sa kung paano siya inaalagaan ng primary caregiver o ng kanyang parent. Kapag consistent ang pag-aalaga, like halimbawa, pinapakain on time yung bata, or nililinis kapag marumi, or binibigyan ng warmth na yakap or ng gentle touch, unti-unting nabubuo sa bata yung tinatawag na trust. Ibig sabihin, natututo siyang maniwala na ang mundo ay safe, or may taong nagmamahal sa kanya, or dahil dito nade-develop ang strength or hope, or ang paniniwalang kahit may problema siya, may handang tumulong sa kanya. Pero naman, kapag pabaya ang caregiver or hindi pinapansin yung bata, kunwari like hindi siya pinapakain on time, pinapabayaan lang siya, like kapag marumi na, or walang emosyon kapag nakikisalamuha siya sa bata, doon nabibuild up or nabubuo yung tinatawag na mistrust. Mistrust niya sa primary caregiver or sa parent. Ito ay nagre-resulta sa takot or kaya naman anxiety, or mas malala is na nagkakaroon ng takot or ng na hindi siya madaling magtiwala sa mga future relationship niya. Second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt. Nag-occur ito from 18 months hanggang 3 years old ng isang bata. Key relationship is between his or her parent. Strength developed is will, and key event is about toilet training. Sa edad na ito, nagsisimulang magkaroon or ng kakayahan ng isang bata na gumawa ng mga bagay ng mag-isa, tulad ng paglalakad, pag-akyat, pagpili ng mga gusto, at body control, or yung halimbawa nito is yung toilet training na. Natural sa toddler na maging curious at independent. Kapag pinayagan ng parents ang bata na mag-explore or gumawa ng mga simple tasks independently, halimbawa is kumain kahit na makalat, or magsuot ng damit, even sa pagsusuot ng sapatos or pagsisintas ng sapatos, nade-develop yung autonomy. Ibig sabihin, napipil ng bata na kaya ko pala. Dahil dito lumalakas ang willpower nila o ang kakayahang maging independent at may sariling desisyon. Pero kung sobrang higpit ni parent sa kanyang anak, or laging pinipigilan ang bata or pinapagalitan kapag nagkakamali, nagkakaroon sila ng shame and doubt sa kanilang sarili. Dahil dyan, natatakot yung bata na gumawa ng mga bagay dahil napipil nila na mali yung ginagawa nila or palaging mali yung ginagawa nila. Third stage of Erikson's psychosocial stage is about initiative versus guilt. Nag-occur ito between from 3 years old up to 6 years old ng isang bata. Key relationship is between his or her family. Strength developed is purpose, and yung key event is about independence. Sa stage na to, mas lumalawak ang mundo ng isang bata. Hindi lang sila curious, gusto na din nilang mag-initiate ng sarili nilang activities. Gusto nilang maglaro ng pretend games, magtanong, magplano, at gumawa ng projects. Kapag pinapayagan sila ng parents and family nila na mag-explore ng imaginative at creative nila, nade-develop ang tinatawag na initiative. Nagiging active and creative, or may sense of purpose yung mga ginagawa nila. Para silang nagsasabi na, ay, may idea ako, gusto kong gawin ito. Pero kung lagi silang sinisita or pinipigilan maglaro ng member of family nila, or kaya naman ay pinapatahimik sila kapag curious, or laging sinasabihan ng mali yan, nagkakaroon sila ng guilt or napapaisip sila na ang pagiging active or curious ay masama. Parang pakiramdam nila nakakaya na mag-express ng mga wants nila. Fourth stage of Erikson's psychosocial stages is industry versus inferiority. Nag-occur siya from 6 years old up to 12 years old. Key relationship is between his or her school, teacher, neighbor, or peers. Strength developed is competence. Ito ang tinatawag na school age, kung saan expose ang bata sa iba't ibang tasks like academics, sports, arts, teamworks, and responsibilities sa schools, especially home. Dito nabubuo ang sense of industry. Ibig sabihin, natututo silang maging hardworking at proud sa achievements nila. Sa ganitong stage, malaking tulong ang guidance ng teachers, classmates, at family. Kapag may nagbibigay sa kanila ng encouragement at recognition, mas nagiging motivated sila. Dahil dito nabubuo ang competence o ang paniniwala na kaya nilang matuto at magtagumpay sa iba't ibang task. Pero kapag kulang sa support or palaging pinapagalitan or kino-compare sa iba yung bata, pwede silang magkaroon ng tinatawag na inferiority. Ito yung pakiramdam na lagi silang hindi magaling sa kahit anumang bagay or hindi enough yung mga ginagawa nila para sa kanilang parents or para sa mga nakapaligid sa kanila. Pwedeng maging effect ito sa pag-boost ng confidence ng isang bata habang sila ay lumalaki.
Good day everyone! So, ang tatalakayin po natin ngayon ay ang Erik Erikson Psychosocial Theory about development. So, meron tayo ditong 8 stages. So, the first one is the trust versus mistrust. Second is autonomy versus shame and doubt. The third one is the initiative versus guilt. The fourth one is industry versus inferiority. 5, identify versus role confusion. 6, intimacy versus isolation. 7, generativity versus stagnation. And then the last one is the ego integrity versus despair. So, bakit nga ba ito nagawa ni Erik Erikson? Bakit niya na-develop ang psychosocial theory about development? So, aaralin natin siya dito sa susunod na mga kabanata. So, number 5, the stage 5 is identity versus role confusion. So, dito, ang range na nito, ng edad nito ay 12 to 18 years old. So, syempre, adolescence na yung age na yon. So, the definition here is, during adolescence, individuals explore different social roles and experiment with various identities. If they build the resilience that allows them to go after their dreams, not establishing an identity during these years can result in insecurity and doubt about who they are. So, syempre, sa identity versus role confusion, dumating na tayo sa edad ng adolescence, nagkakaroon na tayo ng identity tapos ng role confusion. Pagka sinabi nating identity, malalaman natin kung sino nga ba tayo, kung ano nga ba yung identity natin bilang isang tao, kung ano nga ba tayo, kung ano nga bang yung purpose natin, kung ano ba yung gusto nating takakin. Pero kapag hindi natin nagawa yun, nagkakaroon ng role confusion. Ano nga ba yung role confusion? Syempre, hindi natin alam, halimbawa na lang to sa gender natin, hindi natin alam kung ano yung gender natin kasi hindi natin na-explore yung pagiging adolescent natin, pagiging teenager natin. And also, the example here is adolescents derive comfort from their social circle and gain a feeling of significance. This support helps to facilitate personality maturation. Furthermore, through friendships, teenagers can learn how to navigate relationships and mediate conflicts that arise inside and outside the group. So, syempre, sa pagka naging adolescent na tayo, ang kasama natin dito palagi ay ang mga kaibigan, mga kaklase natin, more on sila yung mga nakakasama natin. Kasi yung ibang mga kabataan, nahihiya na silang mag-open up sa mga magulang nila. So, ang basic virtue dito sa identity versus role confusion, stage 5 is fidelity. So, ano nga ba yung fidelity? So, the fidelity is the virtue of loyalty and faithfulness that results from successfully navigating the adolescent stage of identity versus role confusion. Achieving fidelity means an adolescent has a strong sense of self and can commit to their beliefs, values, and relationships, allowing them to accept others' life by social standards despite inevitable contradiction. So, ang sinasabi dito na ang fidelity daw ay ang loyalty and then the faithfulness. Going back, nasa stage 6 na tayo, kung saan dito ay ang intimacy versus isolation. Syempre, pagkayari ng adolescence natin ranging from 12 to 18 years old, papunta na tayo ng 19 to 40 years old. Sinasabi dito na ang intimacy versus isolation ay yung central conflict nila is after developing a stable sense of identity in adolescence, the individual seeks to form deep, meaningful relationships with others. So, dito, naghahanap na yung isang tao ng makakasama niya sa pagtanda. Mayroon dito na yung ibang tao hindi nagkakaroon ng asawa at nagkakaroon sila ng isolation. So, kapag na nagawa natin na makapaghanap tayo na makakasama natin sa pagtanda, ay successful na natin na navigate this stage can form committed. Siyempre, committed na tayo kasi nahanap na natin yung makakasama natin sa habang buhay. So, loving relationship with friends and romantic partners, they feel safe, secure, and having sense of commitment. Siyempre, nagkakaroon na nga talaga ng commitment. On the other hand, kapag naman hindi natin nagawa ito, nagkakaroon ng unsuccessful resolution. So, a failure to form these intimate connections can result in isolation. Individuals may fear commitment, leading to loneliness and a sense of being disconnected from others. Siyempre, nagkakaroon ng loneliness. Ang tanda na natin, 19 to 40 years old, ikaw lang mag-isa. Siyempre, hindi naman malungkot talaga yon. And then the virtue here is the love. So, achieved through successful resolution of this stage is the love. This isn't just romantic love but a broader capacity for mature, affectionate attachment and commitment to others. So, ayan. Impact of previous stages. The ability to form intimate relationships is heavily influenced by the success of previous stages. For example, a lack of basic trust from the first stage can make it difficult to form loving bonds later in the life. Siyempre, sa stage 1 pa lang, nagkakaroon na tayo ng trust versus mistrust. Kaya pala nagkakaroon ng may mga negative sides na to kasi bata pa lang tayo, naaapektuhan na yung pananaw natin sa buhay dahil sa nangyayari in the past. So, connected pa rin pala talaga sila. Dito naman, dumako na tayo sa stage 7, the generativity versus stagnation. So, ano nga ba yung stagnation or the generativity? So, sinasabi dito in the definition is, during this stage, individual begin to reflect on their life experiences and accomplishments and may experience a desire to give back to society. One way to practice generativity is by teaching and mentoring. However, struggling with generativity may feel a sense of stagnation, lack of progress. So, wala daw progress kapag ang stagnation ay lack of progress, walang progress, nagkukulang sa progress. So, dito sa generativity versus stagnation, nayari na natin yung stage 6, yung intimacy versus isolation, kaya dumako na tayo sa stage 7. So, dito sa stage 7, dito na yung middle adulthood. Ibig sabihin, may mga anak na tayo rito na pinapalaki natin. Kaya sinasabi dito na mentoring or teaching. Siyempre, ipapasa na natin to sa mga anak natin kung paano nga ba yung mga tamang gawain ng ipaparanas natin sa kanila. So, dapat i-mentor natin sila, tuturuan natin sila ng mga tamang behavior, ng mga wills, mga tamang mga virtue, ng mga beliefs, ganun. So, the example here is, generativity encompasses the act of guiding and nurturing the next generation, and raising one's own kids is a significant way to fulfill this role. Parents can actively participate in their children's growth and development, assisting them in becoming capable and versatile individuals. Siyempre, ayaw naman natin na mapabayaan natin yung mga anak natin during this stage. Kaya natin sila minamentor at tinuturuan para maging mabuting tao. And ayun yung kailangan natin gawin in this stage. Kasi kapag halimbawa, hindi natin nagawa to, hindi tayo nagkaroon ng generativity, nasa stagnation process tayo kung saan wala tayong progress, wala tayong mentor, wala tayong natuturuan, wala tayong nagiging anak. Kasi nga, sa stage 6 pa lang, wala tayong naging asawa. And that's it. So, the basic virtue here is the care. So, syempre, inaalagaan natin yung mga anak natin, hindi natin sila pinapabayaan, and then, kung paano tayo makakapag-contribute sa pagkatao nila. Ako na tayo sa last stage ng Erik Erikson Psychosocial Theory o ito yung integrity versus despair. So, ano nga ba to? Siyempre, ano na to? Late adulthood na to. Ibig sabihin, matatanda na tayo dito, senior citizen na to. So, the final stage is where individuals reflect on their lives. Ibig sabihin, nagre-reflect na yung tayo sa nangyari natin sa atin in the past stages. So, nangyari na yung trust versus mistrust hanggang napunta na ng stage 6, stage 7, hanggang napunta na tayo ng stage 8. So, achieving integrity means finding a sense of satisfaction and acceptance of one's life, leading to a feeling of fulfillment and wisdom. Conversely, failing to achieve this result in despair, characterized by feelings of bitterness, regret over missed opportunities, and a fear of death. So, syempre, pagka-integrity, masaya na tayo. Masaya na tayo na binabalikan yung mga past na nangyari sa atin, inaalala na natin kung ano ba yung nangyari in the past, kung ano ba yung ginawa natin, kung gano'n nga ba kasaya yung past. Syempre, integrity na yun, binabalikan na lang natin yung mga nakaraan. While, on the other hand, kapag sinabi naman natin despair, na hindi natin nagawa lahat ng stages, nakalimutan natin yung sarili natin, nahihirapan tayong i-accept na matanda na tayo, natatakot tayo sa pagkamatay, and also, nang hihinayang tayo sa mga opportunities na nasayang. And, characteristics is, it involves feeling a sense of completeness, having a positive outlook on one's life story, and being able to face that with equanimity. So, yan, hindi na tayo takot. Pero kapag ka naman sa despair, natatakot tayo, feeling of depression, anxiety, and dread about death. Yan. If a stage is managed well, we carry away a certain virtue or psychosocial strength which will help us through the rest of the stages of our life. Siyempre, kapag ka naman nagawa natin yung mga stages na yon, masaya na tayo na nangyari sa buhay natin yon, naranasan natin yon. Siyempre, ayaw naman natin na maranasan yung mga negative sides na yon. Gusto natin nasa part tayo ng masaya yung buhay natin, ganon. And also, kapag sinabi nating malignancy, it involves too little of the positive and too much of the negative aspects of the task, such as a person who can trust others. So, kapag malignancy, more on, mas marami ang negative sides kaysa sa positive side. So, eto, nasa negative side siya. Like halimbawa, sa mistrust, trust versus mistrust. So, nasa mistrust siyang part, that is the malignancy. On the other hand, kapag ka naman sinabi nating maladaptation, it is not quiet as bad and involves too much of the positive and too little of the negative, such as person who trusts too much. Kapag ka naman maladaptation, mas marami naman ang positive side kaysa sa negative side. And also, kapag ka halimbawa sa positive side siya, sa trust versus mistrust, mas marami yung task niya kaysa sa negative side. Yung task na yun, sumusobra na. Hindi na maganda yun. Siyempre, pagka maraming tiwala, naloloko na. Kaya ayun, ang pinagkaiba nila sa malignancy, mas marami ang negative side kaysa sa positive side. On the other hand, kapag naman maladaptation, mas marami ang positive side kaysa sa negative side. Gets po ba? Thank you po.
So today, we're going to tackle about the Bandura social learning theory. As you can see on the slide, Albert Bandura, born 1925, Alberta, Canada, developed a theory explaining how children learn through observation. So Albert Bandura was a Canadian psychologist who challenged the behaviorist idea that learning only happens through rewards and punishments. He proposed that children learn by observing others, especially role models like their parents, teachers, and peers. His theory was originally called social learning theory, but later evolved into social cognitive theory to highlight the role of mental process in learning. Bandura also emphasizes that learning is shaped by the interaction of personal beliefs, behavior, and the environment. So, pinapakita ni Bandura na ang pagkakatuto ng isang bata ay hindi lang galing sa gantimpala o parusa, kundi sa pag-iisip. So, in summary, Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory explained how children learn by observing others through role models such as I've said earlier, parents, teachers, or peers. Children imitate behaviors, especially when those actions are rewarded. Bandura's famous Bobo doll experiment showed that children replicate aggressive behavior after watching adults. So, ginagawa ng mga bata yung mga nakikita nilang ginagawa ng mga matatanda na nasa paligid nila. His theory highlights the dynamic interaction between personal beliefs, environment, and behavior, emphasizing the learning is both social and cognitive. So in this slide, Bobo doll experiment, children watch adults act aggressively towards a Bobo doll. Example giving is hitting and yelling. This results the children imitated the aggression unlike those in the control group. First example is a child who sees an adult punch a doll may later do the same thing during play. So, dito sa Bobo doll experiment, pinapakita na ang mga bata, ginagaya nila yung mga nakikita nila sa mga matatanda. Like for example, nakita nila that an adult is being aggressive. So, tulad sa example, a child who sees an adult punch a doll may later do the same thing during play. So, when a children saw an adult punch a doll or hurt a doll, they might do the same thing. Kasi, akala nila tama yon because they look up to the adult or they look up to their parents, especially dahil yun yung nire-respeto nila. So, kung ano yung ginagawa ng tao na yon or ng parents nila, gagawin din nila kasi akala nila tama yon because they look up to them. Also, for more information, Bandura's most famous experiment involved children watching adult acts aggressively toward the Bobo doll. Tulad nga din ng example ko kanina, punching, kicking, and yelling. They might do the same thing kapag nakita nila na ginagawa yun ng mga adults. The children who observed this behavior later imitated it. Ginagaya nila yun dahil akala nila tama yun. So, showing that they learned aggression just by watching. So, dito sa Bobo doll experiment, sa mga nakikita nila, yun yung ginagaya nila. They are imitating what they see, especially sa mga parents or sa mga adults na talagang nire-respect nila dahil akala nila tama yun. This experiment proved that children don't need direct reinforcement to learn. They can learn simply by observing adults or observing others. So, one example by this experiment that proved that children don't need direct reinforcement to learn is that, for example, pinapanood nilang mag-drawing yung kalaro nila. So, kapag nakita nila nag-drawing ng cat, yung kasama nila, they can see the patterns, how they draw it, kung paano nila lines. So, magagaya nila yon at matututunan din nila kung paano mag-drawing ng cat. They don't need the direct reinforcement or hindi nila kailangan ng push to do that sa isang adult. They can learn simply by observing others or observing yung kalaro nila kung paano mag-draw ng cat. So, magagaya din nila yon at matututunan din nila yon. So, in summary, kapag nakita ng bata ang asal ng matatanda, dito sa experiment na to, malaki ang posibilidad na gayahin din nila ito. So here, in the third slide, observational learning. Children imitate behaviors they observe from role models. Example, pretend play like cooking, babysitting or shopping, mimicking parents. Behavior is shaped by reinforcement or punishment. So hindi tulad nung una nating pinag-aralan na Bobo doll experiment, doon ay napoprove na yung mga bata don't need direct reinforcement or punishments to learn. They can learn simply by observing others. But in this observational learning, behavior is shaped by reinforcement or punishment. So, children naturally imitate what they see. This is called observational learning. For example, when children play, they often pretend to cook, babysit, or shop, just like their parents. Bandura explained that imitation is partly innate but also influenced by consequences. If a child sees a behavior being rewarded, they are more likely to copy it. If the behavior seems threatening or punished, they're less likely to imitate it. So, ang mga bata ay madaling matuto sa pamamagitan ng paggaya sa nakikita nilang kilos ng iba. Pero, tulad nga ng sabi ko kanina, if a child sees a behavior being rewarded, syempre gagawin nila yon. For example, naging mabait sa klase at tahimik ang kaklase ng isang second grader. So, gagawin niya din yon dahil makikita niya na malalagyan ng star yung kaklase niya. So, yun yung reward na gusto niya ding makuha dahil alam niyang maganda yon or tama yung ginawa ng kaklase niya. Pero if the behavior seems threatening or punished na nakita niya na pinagalitan dahil maingay yung kaklase niya, syempre hindi niya na yun gagawin. That is observational learning. Next is vicarious reinforcement. Learning by watching consequences of others' action. Example, a child sees a peer praised for sharing and starts sharing more. So in this vicarious reinforcement, Bandura introduced the idea of vicarious reinforcement, which means learning by watching what happens to others. If a child sees another child being praised for sharing their food, they may start sharing too, even if they weren't directly rewarded. This shows that children don't need to experience consequences, punishments themselves to learn. They can learn by observing others' experiences. So, natututo ang bata sa mga gantimpala o parusa ng iba kahit sila mismo ang nakakaranas. The next slide is self-efficacy. Belief in one's ability to succeed in a specific task. Influence motivation and performance. For example, a student confident in science will persist through difficult experiments. So, self-efficacy is a key concept in Bandura's theory. It refers to a person's belief in their ability to succeed at a task. For example, a student who believes they're good at science will be more motivated to tackle difficult science problems. High self-efficacy leads to greater effort and persistence, while low self-efficacy can lead to avoidance and fear of failure. Kapag naniniwala ang estudyante o ang bata sa sarili niyang kakayahan, mas nagiging porsigido siyang matuto. Pero kung wala siyang tiwala sa sarili niya, ay mas nawawalan siya ng motivasyon or motivation at mas lalo siyang natatakot makaranas ng failure. So that is self-efficacy. Next slide is social cognitive framework. Learning occurs through interaction between person, thoughts, beliefs, environment, social context, behavior, action, and people actively interpret and understand their surroundings. Bandura's theory highlights that learning happens through the interaction of three factors. Tulad nga ng nakikita nyo dyan, the person, their thoughts, and their beliefs, the environment, social influences ng mga peers sa paligid nila, behavior, the action. This is called reciprocal determinism. People are not passive learners. They actively interpret and respond to their surroundings. This makes learning a dynamic and social progress. So, ang pagkatuto daw sa social cognitive framework ay resulta ng ugnayan ng iniisip, kilos at kapaligiran ng tao. Next slide is classroom application. So, teacher can model positive behavior and confidence, reinforce good behavior through praise and recognition, build students' self-efficacy by setting achievable goals. So, teacher can apply Bandura's theory by modeling positive behavior, encouraging self-efficacy, and using reinforcement wisely. Using the punishment and consequences wisely. For example, praising a student for effort can motivate others to try harder kasi naririnig yon ng mga bata. At dahil ang mga bata ay kung ano nga ang nakikita nila sa mga mas nakakatanda, yun ang akala nilang tama. So, kailangan umpisahan natin sa sarili natin kung paano natin i-project ang sarili natin sa harap ng mga bata. Creating a supportive environment helps students feel confident and capable. Teachers should always be aware that students are always observing. Mapag-observe ang mga estudyante. So, their actions and attitude matter. So, mahalaga ang kilos ng guro dahil ito ang ginagaya at pinagmamasdan ng estudyante. So, just a quick recap, Albert Bandura's theory reshaped how we understand learning, not just as a result of reward and punishment, but as a process deeply influenced by observation, thinking, and social interaction. Through his famous Bobodal experiment, Bandura showed that children can learn behaviors simply by watching others, especially role models. Just like what I've said earlier, teachers, parents, and peers. The key concepts of this lesson includes observational thinking. Children imitate what they see. Vicarious reinforcement, they learn from others, rewards and punishments. Self-efficacy, belief in one's ability boosts motivation and persistence. Reciprocal determinism, learning is shaped by the dynamic interaction of personal belief, behavior, and environment. So, in the classroom, Bandura's theory reminds us that teachers are powerful role models. By modeling positive behavior, reinforcing effort, and building students' confidence, educators can create a learning environment where students strive, not just academically, but socially and emotionally.
Now, let's talk about the Bowlby's attachment theory. John Bowlby is a British psychologist who worked as a child psychiatry in London. He proposed that the relationship of a child to his or her caregiver has a strong impact to her holistic development. Or in short, the attachment theory he proposed is about the attachment or the bond between the child and his caregiver that serve as one of the stepping stone for the holistic development of a child. Now, to contextualize with his theory, attachment is described as an enduring emotional ties to a person. It is rooted to an evolutionary development and can develop depending on the interaction made with the caregiver. So, para mas madali nating maunawaan, the context, for us to easily understand the contextualized definition or meaning of attachment, it is about the long-lasting or continuous ties to a person, but the attachment will be depend on the interaction between the child and his own caregiver. Then, let's tackle the different stages in the attachment theory. There are 4 stages of attachment. Let's start with the pre-attachment of the infancy to 2 years old. At this stage, infant can already show innate behavior such gasping, smiling, and maintaining attention. As we can see, the child has its own innate behavior like gasping and smiling, but most likely laughing to anyone. Child at this stage prefer to look on a human face than object that help them to recognize their mother's appearance, smell, and voice. Then they prepared to look on their parents to familiarize with their mother and to easily recognize their own caregiver by knowing their appearance and smell and even the sound of their voice. Then number 2, attachment in working. Ito naman yung mga 2 months to 7 years old. This stage is well known as learning the basic rule of interaction, such as turn talking and shared attention. In this area, the child are learning the basic rule of interaction. They are not knowledgeable about it, so they observe and imitate their caregiver in exchange of talk and shared attention, where the child listen to them and look to them directly that show that they are listening. So, child started to develop trust but do not complain being departed from their caregiver. So, since their trust is not fully matured but in formation stage, they do not show aggressive behavior or irritated attitude when being away from their caregiver. And number 3, the clear-cut attachment. Nag-range to ng 7 months to 2 years old. This stage, the attachment of child to their caregiver become more evident by showing favorable behavior toward them, toward their caregiver compared to other, and started to miss or look around when they are not around. In this stage, we can observe the attitude of a child becoming more favorable to the one who catered them with love and care compared to the other person around them, since they become more attached and build more strong bond between their caregiver. Additionally, they show anxiety after being departed from their caregiver, and compared to the second stage where the children did not show any negative response when they are not being departed to separate to their caregiver, but in this stage the child feels more irritated being away from their caregiver, like they are searching for longing with their own caregiver. So in number 4, formation of reciprocal relationship. This stage shows that the behavior of child becoming more intentional. That means they no longer cry due to hunger or pain, but to call out the attention of their caregiver, knowing that they will come after hearing their crying voice. The behavior of a child in this stage show more intentional action, since they can now understand some basic action response with their caregiver, like in the statement where the child won't cry anymore due to hunger or pain, but to seek attention for their caregiver. In this stage, they do their action more intentionally with a purpose in their every tiny action for their own sake. So, in conclusion, the attachment theory was served as one of the most important cornerstone in the field of psychiatry and child psychology, because it explained why and how attachment developed by stages. Moreover, the theory was largely focused on mother's role. It is not applicable to family where the father also do caregiving. Or in short terms, this theory solely focused on the mother's role on giving caregiving instead of father's role. Or sa makatuwid, para mas madali nating maunawaan, hindi sakop ng attachment theory ni John Bowlby yung father's role, kundi nakapokus lang siya sa mother's role or mother as the caregiver.